What if I told you some of boxing's biggest legends passed the gloves to their sons, who also stepped into the ring with something to prove? From Muhammad Ali's son, carrying the weight of a legendary name, to Conor Benn, punching his way into UK welterweight fame, here are some boxing legends and their sons, Muhammad Ali and Muhammad Ali Jr. Muhammad Ali is not only a boxing great, he's the great one. Dubbed the greatest, Ali possessed speed, power, and a personality unlike anyone else in the boxing ring. He took Olympic gold, was a 3-time heavyweight champion, and rallied for civil rights when many other athletes remained silent. His battles against Joe Frazier, George Foreman, and Sonny Liston remain legendary today. His son, Muhammad Ali Jr., did not take after his father in boxing. Instead, he had a quiet and frequently troubled existence, struggling with money and personal demons. Ali Jr. has talked candidly about how challenging it was to grow up in the shadow of such a larger-than-life father. Though he never set foot in the ring, his story to boxing history remains powerful, because sharing a name with Muhammad Ali is a moniker the world won't soon forget. Joe Frazier and Marvis Frazier. Joe Frazier, or Smokin' Joe, was another heavy-hitting heavyweight. He had a ferocious style, a crushing left hook, and remarkable stamina. His 3-way bout with Muhammad Ali, particularly the Thrilla in Manila, is regarded as one of sport's finest rivalries. Frazier won the world title in 1970 and defeated Ali in his professional debut. His son, Marvis Frazier, did pursue boxing. Marvis possessed talent and heart, but it was evident right away that he had huge shoes to fill. He won 19 of 21 professional fights, but his 2 defeats were in top-billed bouts versus Larry Holmes versus Mike Tyson. That 30-second defeat to Tyson in 1986 is still talked about today. Though the defeats were suffered, Marvis persevered and eventually became a minister. He is proud of his father's heritage, but also carves out a quieter existence beyond the ring. Julio Cesar Chavez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Julio Cesar Chavez is arguably the greatest boxer in Mexican boxing history. He was renowned for his iron chin and incessant pressure, possessing multiple world championships in various weights. In his career, he accumulated 107 victories, with 86 of those coming via knockouts, which makes him one of the all-time great pound-for-pound boxers. Fans still look back on his glory years of the late 80s and early 90s. His son, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., had everyone's attention right from day one. He even won the WBC middleweight championship and went undefeated for some time. But as the years passed, people criticized him for not having the discipline and focus that made his father a legend. Although Chavez Jr. displayed glimpses of brilliance, he battled weight problems, motivation, and consistency. Nevertheless, being the son of a boxing legend meant the spotlight never faded. Evander Holyfield and Evan Holyfield. Evander Holyfield is a name everyone who's ever been a fan of boxing can recall. He's the only heavyweight champion to have achieved 4 titles. Nicknamed the Real Deal, Holyfield possessed a chin of stone, a heart of gold, and a reputation for fighting the biggest and baddest men in the sport, including Mike Tyson. Most people recall him from the iconic fight when Tyson nipped off part of his ear. Outside of the ring, Holyfield was disciplined and a man of focus. He competed in the cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions and never shied away from a challenge. His fights against Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis, and George Foreman were legendary. Enter Evan Holyfield, his son. Evan has taken after his dad and is in the process of establishing his career in the welterweight class. Unlike his heavyweight father, Evan is a little smaller but very quick and sharp in the ring. He's already won a number of his professional fights and is noted for his speedy combinations and calm demeanor under stress. Although Evan has a way to go to become as great as his dad, fans are keeping an eye on him. And so far, it appears he's got the hustle and heart of a real Holyfield. It's never easy living up to a name like that, but Evan appears to be up for the task. Tommy Morrison and Trey Lippe Morrison. Tommy Morrison was a 90s heavyweight knockout machine. With 48 wins and 44 knockouts on his record, he possessed the kind of power that could turn the lights out in an instant. He was also widely recognized for portraying Tommy, the Machine Gun, in the film Rocky V. But beneath his film star good looks and brutish strength, Morrison had a tough ride. His career was abbreviated by health problems, including an HIV diagnosis that stunned the world of boxing. Despite all the adversity, Morrison remained one of the toughest punchers of his era. His battle with George Foreman, in which he defeated him to become the WBO heavyweight champion, remains one of his greatest performances. Now his son, Trey Lippe Morrison, is continuing his father's heritage. Like Tommy, Trey is a heavyweight puncher. Trey established an early knockout streak during his career, stopping most of his opponents in the process. Fans soon realized that same Morrison fire and brutal aggression in his fighting style. Trey has been striving to hone his technique and defense, attempting to be more than merely a slugger. And with the name of his father backing him up, he's got the pressure and the spotlight, but is coping fine. Floyd Mayweather Sr. and Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Sr. was a world-class boxer during the 1970s and 1980s. He wasn't a world champion, but he possessed slick defense and quick hands. Once his ring career was behind him, he was even more famous as one of the greatest boxing trainers. He did it all. He taught defense, speed, and counterpunching, and passed it all directly to his son. And boy, did that pay off. Floyd Mayweather Jr., Money Mayweather, is among the best boxers of all time. He retired with a perfect record, 50-0. That's something few, if any, boxers have ever accomplished, let alone at the highest level. He won world titles in 5 weight divisions and defeated some of the best fighters of his generation, such as Oscar de la Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, and Canelo Alvarez. Floyd Jr. was all about defense. He made boxing look effortless, shoulder rolls and quick feet dodging punches, then unloading clean punches of his own. Some complained his style was boring, while others marveled at the technical brilliance. Away from the ring, he partied like a rock star with fancy cars, fat bankrolls, and a loud mouth. Inside the ring, though, he was virtually impenetrable. His dad, Floyd Sr., played an enormous part in constructing that career, teaching him from a young age and assisting in shaping him into a defensive wizard. Together, they're boxing's most legendary father-son team, Kostya Tszyu and Tim Tszyu. Kostya Tszyu was a ring monster in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Having been born in Russia but based out of Australia, he is a light welterweight world champion and infamous for his punching power and icy ring demeanor. He had a brief but wild career, registering big victories against opponents such as Zab Judah. His career ended at 31 victories and just 2 defeats. Now, his son Tim Tszyu is taking over, and he's doing a wonderful job of keeping the Tszyu name going in boxing. Tim competes at junior middleweight and has already established himself in Australia and overseas. He's got power, ability, and confidence. Some say he's smoother than his father, with a slightly more refined style. Tim has been rapidly climbing the ranks and even beating out some of the top competition. With each bout, he's demonstrating he's not coasting on his father's fame. He's creating his own legacy. Chris Eubank Sr. and Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Sr. was the UK's biggest boxing superstar in the 1990s. He had a flashy personality, both in and out of the ring, never hesitating to flaunt his self-assured nature. With his eccentric fashion choices and theatrical entrances, he was a crowd darling. But he wasn't all show. He possessed serious skills as well. Eubank Sr. was a 2-weight world champion, having titles in middleweight and super middleweight, and was most famous for his hard-fought battles against Nigel Benn and Michael Watson. His son, Chris Eubank Jr., obviously inherited that same panache. Since the beginning of his professional boxing career, fans have been impressed with his slick ring style, lightning-fast punches, and flashy moves. But behind the flash, Eubank Jr. has established himself as a legitimate force in the middleweight division. He's been a multiple title holder, including the WBA interim middleweight title, and has battled some of the best fighters. What's fascinating is how much he's like his dad in the ring. Confident, quick, and always willing to put on a show. Sure, there's always pressure when your dad is a boxing legend, but Chris Jr. has done an excellent job establishing himself. He's still pursuing that world championship heritage, but he's already shown he's got the heart and ability to keep the Eubank name going. Leon Spinks and Corey Spinks. Leon Spinks grabbed headlines globally when he orchestrated one of the greatest upsets in the history of boxing. In 1978, in just his 8th pro fight, he beat the great Muhammad Ali for the heavyweight championship. That triumph turned him into an overnight sensation. With his gap-toothed smile and daredevil nature, Leon was not the greatest boxer, but he had determination and guts, and that propelled him to the pinnacle. His son, Corey Spinks, took a slightly different route. Leon battled as a heavyweight, but Corey was successful at welterweight and junior middleweight. He was slick, smooth, and more technical than his father. Corey also won multiple world titles, and even held the distinction of being the undisputed welterweight champion for a time, a tremendous achievement in boxing. Corey's fighting style was all about defense, footwork, and outboxing his foes. He didn't use the knockout punch like so many others. Rather, he would wear down fighters round by round. Like his father, Corey showed the Spinks family was made of greatness. Shane Mosley and Shane Mosley Jr. Shane Mosley, aka Sugar Shane, was one of the most thrilling fighters of his time. He began his career in the lightweight division and soon became a world champion. But he didn't rest there. He went up in weight and kept winning titles in different divisions such as welterweight and light middleweight. A master of lightning-fast hands, knockout ability, and unrelenting ferocity. Shane Mosley battled and defeated some of the greatest, such as Oscar de la Hoya, Antonio Margarito, and Fernando Vargas. He wasn't only talented, he had heart. Mosley never hesitated to get in the ring with the toughest of fighters. Even at the end of his career, he kept challenging himself when others would have walked away. That sort of determination is what made him a fan favorite and a boxing legend. Now, his son, Shane Mosley Jr., is penning his own tale. He fights in the middleweight class and has been steadily improving. Though he lacks his father's flashy knockout ability, Shane Jr. has good technique and a strong work ethic to bring to the ring. He's renowned for his discipline, clean fighting style, and eagerness to learn and get better. It ain't easy being the son of a boxing legend. Hopes are sky high. But Shane Jr. is forging his way and gaining respect as a talented and hard-working fighter. He even competed on the boxing reality series The Contender in 2018, which introduced him to an even broader audience. Ever since, he's been working tirelessly and gaining experience, showing that he's more than just a famous surname. Steve Collins and Steve Collins Jr. Steve Collins, widely referred to as the Celtic Warrior, was a force in the super middleweight division of the 1990s. Born in Ireland, Collins possessed a strong chin, aggressive fighting style, and tireless drive. He notoriously defeated both Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn, both twice, before retiring a world champion on an impressive record. Collins was regarded as one of the toughest and most mentally punishing fighters to face. During a golden era of British and Irish boxing, he was one of the best. His son, Steve Collins Jr., chose to step into his dad's shoes, albeit slightly later in life than most. Fighting primarily at cruiserweight, Steve Jr. has had a respectable career with modest success. He's racked up wins and gained experience, but he has yet to attain the same championship level as his father. That being said, he's had to contend with the same issue many sons of world-renowned boxers struggle with: establishing his own identity in the sport. With a legend's last name, everyone naturally wants to make comparisons between the two. But boxing is a rough sport, and just showing up in the ring takes heart. Steve Jr. has been displaying heart and continues to train hard to ensure the Collins tradition lives on. Aaron Pryor and Aaron Pryor Jr. Aaron Pryor, who came to be commonly referred to as the Hawk, was one of boxing's most feared pugilists. He fought in the light welterweight division and is perhaps most remembered for his action-packed style of fighting and relentless in-ring energy. Pryor was an undefeated welterweight world champion for much of his career, and he delivered some of the most memorable fights of all time. His most renowned battles were with Alexis Arguello, particularly their 1982 encounter, which remains regarded as one of the greatest fights in boxing history. What was so unique about Aaron Pryor was his intensity. He never quit throwing punches. His endurance was through the roof, and he possessed the heart of a lion. Even when he appeared to be in danger, he'd return firing even harder. Pryor retired with a record of 39, won and was subsequently inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. His son, Aaron Pryor Jr., decided to pursue his old man into the sport. He boxed in the super middleweight class, several weight classes up from where his father boxed. Pryor Jr. was quite tall. He dwarfed his old man and attempted to utilize his reach to best his opponent's attacks. He never achieved champion status like his old man did, but he still managed to have a decent professional career. Aaron Pryor Jr. lacked the same wild, relentless style as the Hawk, but he demonstrated discipline and a solid grasp of boxing fundamentals. It's never easy to be the son of a legend, particularly one as dynamic as Aaron Pryor Sr., but Aaron Jr. demonstrated that he had the heart to fight and continue the family legacy. Tim Witherspoon and Tim Witherspoon Jr. Tim Witherspoon, also known as Terrible Tim, was a powerhouse in the heavyweight division in the 1980s. He was tough, packed powerful punches, and had a strong chin. Tim was a two-time heavyweight world champion, with the WBC and WBA titles in his career. He boxed some of the sport's biggest names, such as Larry Holmes, James Bonecrusher Smith, and Frank Bruno. Witherspoon possessed a peculiar style of boxing that blended stout defense with cunning uppercuts and hooks. He wasn't flashy all the time, but he got the job done and was known to be a tough guy to face. He enjoyed a lengthy career and boxed professionally for more than 2 decades, something that doesn't happen in a division as physically demanding as that. His son, Tim Witherspoon Jr., also entered the ring, albeit for a much shorter period. He boxed primarily in the early 2000s, fighting within the lower weights instead of heavyweight. Witherspoon Jr. did not achieve the success of his father, but continued the family name proudly. What's great about Tim Jr. is that he remained committed to boxing even after retiring from the ring. He's been busy with training and mentoring, continuing to keep the Witherspoon name alive in the sport in various forms. That commitment demonstrates that even though you may not be a world champion, you can still give back to the sport of boxing. Roberto Duran and Robin Duran, Roberto Duran, better known as Hands of Stone, is arguably one of the most highly regarded boxers of all time. Born in Panama, Duran had a career spanning more than half a century. Yes, half a century. He began his career as a lightweight and then went on to fight up through middleweight. He was quick, formidable, and strong, possessing a style that endeared him to fans. He won world championships in 4 weight divisions and enjoyed classic fights with opponents such as Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, and Marvin Hagler. One of his most controversial moments was the notorious No Mas fight, in which he astonishingly walked away in the middle of his rematch with Sugar Ray Leonard. Although that incident was very controversial, it didn't diminish his remarkable accomplishments in the ring. Duran retired with an impressive 103 victories, and he's still regarded as one of the toughest and most thrilling boxers in history. Now, let's discuss his son, Robin Duran. He attempted to tread the same path as his father by becoming a professional boxer. Robin fought in the ring for a time, but he failed to bring the same hot fire that his iconic father had. He didn't possess the same explosive style and knockout punch that made Roberto a fan favorite. However, getting into the ring when your dad is among the greatest of all time takes guts. Robin did his best, and though he didn't become a star, he displayed heart and regard for the sport. Living under the shadow of a legend isn't easy, but Robin kept the Duran name in boxing alive for the next generation. Buddy McGirt and James McGirt Jr. James Buddy McGirt was another fighter who secured his place among boxing's legends. He wasn't merely a world champion. He was one of the brightest boxers in the ring. McGirt won titles at both lightweight and welterweight, and he was renowned for his slick defense, razor-sharp jab, and solid ring IQ. He had classic bouts against champions such as Meldrick Taylor and Pernell Whitaker. After retiring, Buddy turned into a highly respected boxing trainer, training top-level fighters and sharing his expertise with the next generation. His skill at reading opponents and adjusting during a fight made him successful in and out of the ring. His son, James McGirt Jr., entered boxing in the early 2000s. He boxed in the middleweight class and indeed had a promising beginning. Early in his career, James enjoyed an unbeaten record, which made people talk about his potential. He was tall, possessed good boxing technique, and flashed glimpses of being a future contender. But with time, his pace slowed. Though he fought for many years, he never won a world title or became a household name like his father. Nevertheless, he fought with determination and took the McGirt name into a new generation. As with so many sons of boxing greats, James McGirt Jr. was forced to contend with the pressure of fulfilling the expectations of his father's legendary status. He stayed humble, diligent, and always respectful towards the sport, though. Julian Jackson and Julius Jackson. Julian Jackson was famous for one thing more than anything else: knockout power. This guy intimidated everyone in the ring due to his unbelievable punching force. Nicknamed the Hawk, Julian was among the toughest punchers in the history of boxing. He competed predominantly in the light middleweight and middleweight classes, and he won world titles in both. If you closed your eyes during his bouts, you could easily miss a knockout. He was that explosive. Julian's highlight reel is dominated by jaw-dropping knockouts that are replayed to this day. He battled top-level names in the late 80s and early 90s and gained respect for being humble and dangerous. His son, Julius Jackson, took after his father into the sport of boxing. Fighting in the light heavyweight class, Julius also gained a reputation for possessing heavy hands. Although he hasn't received the same level of limelight as his father, he's established himself with a respectable career. Julius has won regional championships and established a record demonstrating he's not merely riding his last name, he's working. He's also represented the U.S. Virgin Islands on the world stage, keeping the Jackson name in good stead. It's never simple to follow a legend, but Julius has forged his way in the sport and done his father proud. Ricky Hatton and Campbell Hatton. Ricky Hatton is a name that will never be forgotten by boxing enthusiasts. Nicknamed the Hitman, Ricky was one of the most thrilling boxers to emerge from the UK. With his pressurizing fighting style, constant action, and dedicated supporters, Ricky injected enthusiasm into each bout. Ricky was a world champion in both the light welterweight and welterweight classes, and he fought some of the biggest stars in the sport, including Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. Although he lost both of those huge fights, Ricky's grit and heart earned him the hearts of fans everywhere. His wars in the ring and personal strife outside of it only made his tale more identifiable for fans. He retired as a hero in British boxing. Now his son, Campbell Hatton, is taking the limelight. A lightweight, Campbell is early in his career but already making waves due to his last name. He is as aggressive and full of heart as his father. Campbell is still getting his timing right, gaining experience and learning from every bout. What is notable about Campbell is how down-to-earth he is. He recognizes that he has a long way to go, and he's not in any hurry to be a superstar overnight. Rather, he's concerned with learning, getting better, and gaining respect on his terms. Naseem Hamed and Adam Hamed. Naseem Hamed, also known as Prince Naseem. If you ever watched boxing in the 90s, you sure as heck remember this guy. He wasn't merely a boxer, he was a showman. Prince Naseem electrified the featherweight division with his crazy entrances, unbreakable confidence, and unconventional fighting style. He possessed genuine knockout power, lightning-quick footwork, and he wasn't afraid to insult his opponents in the ring. He brought excitement to boxing for an entire new generation of fans. Naseem went on to become a featherweight world champion and won 36 of his 37 bouts, with an incredible 31 of them being by knockout. His blend of style and ability made him an international sensation. Even after retirement, his name remained large in boxing circles due to the passion he infused into the sport. Cut forward to 2024, and the light has shone on his son, Adam Hamed. Adam emerged as a professional in early 2024, and the excitement was genuine. Boxing enthusiasts wondered, does he share his father's showmanship, that same knockout strength? So far, Adam has proved that he's got some of that Hamed glamour, but he also needs to forge his reputation, not ride on his dad's glory. He's early into his career still, but he's under immense pressure. Having a legend such as Prince Naseem for a father does mean every hook and step he takes in the ring is going to be followed very closely, though. Adam has insisted he's happy with his father's reputation, but is on his own trajectory now. If he's a champion like his dad, or if he goes another route, he's certainly someone worth keeping an eye on. Matthew Saad Muhammad and his son. Now let's go back in history to another unbelievable boxer, Matthew Saad Muhammad. He was one of the toughest boxers to ever step into the ring. Famous for his never-say-die spirit and outrageous comebacks, Matthew was a light heavyweight world champion during the late 1970s and early 80s. His fights were absolute wars, and fans enjoyed watching him take punches and still get back at swinging. What was more inspiring about his tale was his past. He was orphaned early and raised in a rough life, but he never allowed that to hinder him. He took his suffering and made it his strength, and the ring became where he tested his strength. While little is publicly known about his personal life, there has been a reported instance of Matthew having a son who dabbled in boxing as well, only to make no career out of it. His path wasn't as traceable as the sons of other greats, and that's understandable. Children of great boxers sometimes lead less glamorous lives or simply choose not to seek the same kind of fame. Nigel Benn and Conor Benn. Let's discuss Nigel Benn and his son, Conor Benn. A father-son combination that demonstrates how boxing greatness can be hereditary. Nigel Benn, or the Dark Destroyer, as he was nicknamed, was among the most thrilling boxers to emerge from the UK during the late 1980s and early 1990s. He fought with raw aggression and force, tending to go for knockouts outright. Nigel also became a two-weight world champion, middleweight and super middleweight, and was also famous for his rivalries with boxers such as Chris Eubanks Sr. His aggressive, never-back-down approach made him a spectator's favorite and also a legend in the history of British boxing. Now years on, the attention has moved to his son, Conor Benn. Conor is one of the UK's top welterweights right now, and similar to his father, he's also aggressive and has a quick style of fighting. Each time he gets into the ring, he brings passion and energy, demonstrating that he's not on his father's coattails. He's creating his reputation. Conor went pro in 2016 and has steadily ascended the ranks since. With his stunning unbeaten record, he's shown he's got the talent and the grit to become a future world champion. Fans adore watching him compete because he's reminiscent of the old-school, exciting style that made his father such a hit. What sets Conor apart even further is the way he deals with pressure. It's not easy being the son of a boxing legend, but he remains on track, trains diligently, and proves that he's here for the long haul. Whether or not he ends up a world champion like Nigel, one thing is certain: Conor Benn is a fighter to watch.